in just 47 seconds. $2.3 million in hidden consulting fees. Kash Patel didn't expect the cameras. He didn't expect the documents. But Senator Sheldon Whitehouse had been waiting for this moment for months. The FBI director nominee sat there, hands clasped, thinking he could control the narrative. What happened next shocked every person in that Senate chamber and sent shockwaves through Washington that are still being felt today. At exactly 2:17 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon in January, the Senate Judiciary Committee chamber felt like a courtroom about to deliver a death sentence. The mahogany panels seemed to absorb the tension. 27 reporters filled the press gallery, their cameras focused on two men who would define this moment in American political history. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Democrat from Rhode Island, sat with the calm precision of a prosecutor who had seen too many defendants lie under oath. Across from him, Kash Patel, Trump's controversial FBI director nominee, adjusted his navy tie for the third time in 10 minutes. Patel walked into that hearing room like a man who had rehearsed every answer. His legal team had prepared him for hostile questions about his past statements, his loyalty tests, his plans to restructure the Bureau. What they hadn't prepared him for was Whitehouse's manila folder, the one sitting quietly on the senator's desk, unmarked, unremarkable, but containing 3 years of financial records that would unravel everything. The morning had started routinely enough. Republican senators lobbed softball questions about Patel's qualifications, his vision for law enforcement, his commitment to protecting Americans. Democratic senators pressed him on his controversial statements about prosecuting journalists and his role in promoting election fraud claims. Standard for a Senate hearing theater. But Whitehouse hadn't spoken yet. He sat there, occasionally making notes, occasionally glancing at that folder, waiting. The first lie came at 2:19 p.m. Senator Ted Cruz asked about potential conflicts of interest from Patel's private sector work. Patel's response was smooth, practiced. "Senator, I have fully disclosed all financial relationships and consulting arrangements to the Ethics Office. There are no conflicts that would impair my ability to serve the American people as FBI director." His voice was steady. His eyes never wavered. The lie was perfect, except Whitehouse's folder contained bank records showing $847,000 in undisclosed payments from a consulting firm with ties to foreign intelligence services. Records that the Ethics Office had never seen. Records that Patel thought were buried in a maze of shell companies and offshore accounts. The second lie came 12 minutes later. Senator Dick Durbin asked about Patel's knowledge of ongoing FBI investigations into January 6 participants. Patel leaned into the microphone, his voice carrying the weight of righteous indignation. "Senator, I have had absolutely no contact with subjects of federal investigations, nor have I attempted to influence any prosecutorial decisions. Any suggestion otherwise is categorically false." The chamber was silent. Even the clicking of camera shutters seemed to stop. But Whitehouse had phone records, encrypted messages, meeting logs from Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort showing Patel had personally coordinated legal defense strategies for at least 17 January 6 defendants through his foundation. Not just coordination, active interference in federal prosecutions. The third lie was the most brazen. Senator Amy Klobuchar asked about Patel's plans for FBI personnel decisions. His answer would later be replayed on every news network in America. "Senator, I believe in merit-based leadership. Politics will play no role in FBI personnel decisions under my leadership. Agents will be evaluated solely on their professional competence and dedication to the rule of law." Patel's jaw was set. His hands were steady. This was his strongest moment of the day. Whitehouse had been taking notes during each response, his pen moving in careful, measured strokes. Now he set it down. The movement was so subtle that most people in the chamber didn't notice. But the C-SPAN cameras caught it. The moment when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse decided it was time to end Kash Patel's political career. At exactly 2:46 p.m., Whitehouse spoke for the first time that day. His voice was quiet, almost conversational. Mr. Patel, thank you for your testimony today. I have just a few follow-up questions. He opened the manila folder. The sound of paper rustling echoed through the chamber's audio system like thunder. You testified under oath that you have fully disclosed all financial relationships to the Ethics Office. Is that correct? Patel nodded confidently. Yes, Senator, that is correct. Whitehouse pulled out a bank statement. Then perhaps you can explain this deposit of $47,000 from Meridian Strategic Consulting on March 15th of last year. A company that, according to Treasury Department records I'm holding here, received $2.3 million from entities linked to the Russian Federal Security Service. The chamber froze. Every camera in the room zoomed in on Patel's face. For exactly 4 seconds, the only sound was the hum of the ventilation system. Then Patel's face drained of color. His knuckles went white as he gripped the witness table. Senator, that arrangement was fully vetted by Whitehouse interrupted, with surgical precision. By whom, Mr. Patel? Because, according to the Office of Government Ethics, there is no record of any disclosure regarding Meridian Strategic Consulting. None whatsoever. But Whitehouse wasn't finished. He pulled out a second document. You also testified that you had no contact with subjects of federal investigations. Yet here are phone records showing 17 calls between your personal cell phone and attorneys representing January 6th defendants. Here are credit card receipts from a private dining room at Trump International Hotel, where you met with these same attorneys. Here are encrypted messages recovered by federal investigators in which you wrote, and I quote, "The Bureau needs to understand there are consequences for going after patriots." Gasps rippled through the press gallery. A reporter from CNN audibly whispered, "Holy shit," into his phone. The committee chairman, Senator Dick Durbin, had to gavel for order. Patel's hands were visibly trembling now. His legal team was frantically passing notes, but their client was beyond help. Whitehouse continued with the methodical precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. And finally, your testimony about merit-based personnel decisions. Perhaps you'd like to explain this document. He held up what appeared to be a typed list. This is a target list, Mr. Patel. Names of 47 senior FBI agents and analysts marked for immediate termination upon your confirmation. Not based on performance reviews. Not based on disciplinary records. Based on their involvement in investigations that were politically inconvenient to your patron, Donald Trump. The room erupted. Reporters were standing, trying to get photos of the documents. Democratic senators were calling for immediate suspension of the hearing. Republican senators were huddling with staff, trying to understand how their carefully orchestrated confirmation had become a public execution. But the most dramatic moment came when Patel tried to respond. He leaned into the microphone, his voice shaking. "Senator Whitehouse, these documents are taken out of context. My record of service." Whitehouse cut him off with a raised hand. "Mr. Patel, let me save you from committing a fourth felony today. Each of these lies, told under oath, constitutes perjury, a federal crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the cameras seemed to stop clicking. Senator Whitehouse looked directly into Patel's eyes and said the words that would end his career. "I am referring this testimony to the Department of Justice for immediate investigation, and I am calling on President Trump to withdraw this nomination before he further embarrasses this institution and this nation." Within 3 minutes, Patel perjury was trending on Twitter. Fox News, which had been providing live coverage, cut away to commercial. CNN broke into regular programming with a breaking news banner that read FBI nominee caught in multiple lies under oath. MSNBC's legal analysts were already speculating about federal charges. The aftermath was swift and brutal. By 4:30 p.m. that same day, 3 Republican senators had announced they could not support Patel's confirmation. By 6 p.m., Senate Majority Leader John Thune was privately urging the White House to consider withdrawal. By 8 p.m., Patel's own legal team had hired criminal defense attorneys. The speed of the political collapse was unprecedented. Senator Lindsey Graham, one of Trump's most loyal defenders, was caught on a hot mic telling an aide, "We can't defend perjury on live television." Senator Marco Rubio, who had planned to deliver a strong endorsement speech, quietly slipped out of the hearing room during a recess and never returned. Even Senator Josh Hawley, known for his aggressive support of Trump nominees, released a statement calling for a thorough review of these serious allegations. The Republican firewall that had protected Trump nominees for years crumbled in real time. Within hours, Patel had gone from presumed confirmation to political pariah, abandoned by allies who realized that defending him would be career suicide in an era where every lie is recorded and every contradiction is archived. The financial revelations were particularly damaging. Meridian Strategic Consulting, it turned out, was more than just a consulting firm with foreign ties. Federal investigators revealed it was part of a sophisticated influence operation designed to place Trump loyalists in key national security positions. The $2.3 million traced back to accounts controlled by Russian intelligence services, funneled through a network of shell companies in Cyprus and the Cayman Islands. But perhaps most damaging was the target list. When leaked to the Washington Post the next morning, it revealed the scope of Patel's planned purge. Senior agents who had worked on the Trump-Russia investigation, analysts who had authored reports on domestic terrorism threats from right-wing groups, counterintelligence officers who had identified foreign influence operations, all marked for termination within 90 days of Patel's confirmation. The January 6th connection proved equally explosive. Text messages recovered from Patel's phones showed he had been coordinating not just legal strategies, but financial support for defendants through his Kash Foundation. Federal prosecutors discovered that foundation funds, supposedly raised for legal defense, had been used to pay for everything from luxury hotel stays to private security for prominent January 6th participants. 3 days after the hearing, the Department of Justice announced a formal investigation into Patel's testimony. The FBI itself, the agency he had hoped to lead, was now investigating him for perjury, foreign agent registration violations, and obstruction of justice. The irony was not lost on anyone in Washington. President Trump's response was characteristically defiant, but ultimately futile. He blamed deep state operatives and corrupt Democrats for sabotaging his nominee. He claimed the documents were fabricated, the bank records forged, the investigations politically motivated, but even Trump's most loyal allies in Congress couldn't defend perjury committed on live television. Senator Whitehouse, in a press conference the day after the hearing, was measured but firm. The American people deserve better than a law enforcement official who lies under oath about foreign financial entanglements and plans to weaponize the FBI for political revenge. Patel has disqualified himself not just from leading the Bureau, but from any role in government. The broader implications rippled through Washington for weeks. Other Trump nominees found themselves facing more aggressive questioning about their financial disclosures and potential conflicts. The vetting process for senior positions was overhauled to prevent future embarrassments, and Democrats found themselves with a powerful new talking point about the quality of Trump's personnel choices. For Kash Patel personally, the consequences were devastating. Within a week, The Kash Foundation was under federal investigation. His consulting clients dropped him. His publisher canceled his upcoming book contract. The man who had styled himself as a truth-telling outsider, ready to reform the FBI, found himself facing potential federal charges that could result in decades in prison. The hearing also marked a turning point for Senator Whitehouse, who had spent years building a reputation as a methodical investigator willing to take on powerful interests. His 47-second takedown of Patel became a case study in congressional oversight, showing how careful preparation and perfect timing could hold even the most shameless political operatives. What made Whitehouse's performance even more devastating was the theatrical precision of his delivery. He had orchestrated every moment like a master conductor, the timing of when he opened that manila folder, exactly when Patel felt most confident. The way he let silence hang in the air after each revelation, allowing the weight of perjury to settle on everyone in that chamber. Even the order of the documents was strategic. Financial corruption, first to establish criminal intent, obstruction of justice second to show ongoing misconduct, and the target list last to reveal the full scope of Patel's planned abuse of power. Behind the scenes, Whitehouse's staff had worked for months to build this moment. They had coordinated with Treasury Department investigators, obtained court orders for financial records, and worked with cybersecurity experts to authenticate the encrypted messages. The senator's background as a prosecutor showed in every detail this wasn't political theater, it was a criminal case being presented in real time. But perhaps the most important consequence was what didn't happen. The FBI remained under professional leadership, free from political interference. Career agents and analysts kept their jobs. Ongoing investigations into domestic terrorism and foreign influence operations continued without disruption. The rule of law tested but not broken. In the final image from that day, Kash Patel walking out of the Senate hearing room, surrounded by lawyers, his face ashen with the realization that his career was over, became an iconic moment in the ongoing struggle between truth and power in American politics. Sometimes the strongest weapon isn't a badge or subpoena, it's truth, archived and revealed at exactly the right second. What happens when a man who built his career on loyalty to power meets a senator who built his career on loyalty to facts? If integrity can't survive transparency, was it ever real? If this story shattered illusions, don't just watch, like, share, and subscribe to our channel where titles gets broken and lies get time-stamped. Hit the bell, the next truth might be about your representative. What would you do if you had evidence this explosive? Drop a comment below. This dramatized story is inspired by real events and public figures. All dialogue and incidents are fictionalized for commentary and educational purposes. This is not intended to defame, but to explore themes of power, truth, and accountability.